Blessed to be a part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Joining us is our great friend Tom Munns, TomMunns.com, Munns Tom Twitter. Your ears must have been burning. Good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
Well, as always, we're going to take some phone calls. We have some people waiting. Do you mind about if it's related to your topic, the John Birch Society, the future of the Republic, that sort of thing?
You're running the show, boss.
I wish. All right, this young lady has been very, very patient. We thank her for that. Holly in Caldwell joins us now. Kevin Miller, Tom Munns, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Holly.
Kevin, thank you for telling the truth about the John Birch Society. You know, every time Mark Meckler gets on, I hate to waste airtime, but he needs to read the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Saying that the John Birch is supporting the radical left is just ridiculous. I think if he is on again, you should ask him, when we held the House and the Senate, why did we not balance the budget then, and why do we need a balanced budget or amendment just to balance the budget? And the most elephant in the room question is, how is he, if he does change the Constitution, going to suddenly get the government to follow it? I don't understand how changing it is going to change anything. I really respect the John Birch Society, and I'm glad you have him on to tell the people of Idaho the truth, and glad to hear from him today. So.
Thank you. Thanks, Holly. I'd like to be able to start by telling the listeners this morning that I've come a long way in 15 years. Activism has been something I never really wanted. I think it was something that was sort of thrust upon me after a really rude awakening and realizing that something was seriously wrong in this country. And so I've been local. I've been concerned. My agenda going forward is to be able to preserve freedom and liberty for the people in this state. I'm very thankful for people like Holly and Max and my other friends that have known me for a long time to be able to support me and understand what my representation is, the difficulty that we all face, the difficulty of the job I face, and how we all try to move forward together. And so I'm very, very thankful for that support. I know that when I began in activism, I began extremely aggressive and less refined than I am now. I know that can scare people sometimes, but when you wake up and you realize the gravity of the situation and you realize that your country is almost gone, how can anybody just sit by and just point fingers at somebody and say you're a radical conspiracy theorist without even bothering as a fellow American to be able to ask me why I believe the way I do? And this is the thing that I really want to try to be able to change in the state of Idaho more than anything is if we don't begin to dialogue, then guns are the only answer. And I'm not saying that because I support it. It's just a matter of fact. And so as we go forward, it's trying to be able to dispel the lies. It's trying to be able to defend my position. I hate being on the defense all the time. I want to be able to take a proactive position, which is why I'm here. So I hope that you guys will just hang with me for a few.
No, we hope that they hang with you for a few as well. You're the hook for this segment of the program. Holly, what do you want to say? I never have enough time for you, so we have a lot of time right now. Your thoughts on what Mr. Meckler said, Mr. Munns says, and the state of things, the liberty movement here in Idaho.
Well, I don't think it was very smart for him to come in and say they're going to do this with or without Idaho, and that the John Birch Society operates and supports the radical left, which we know is a complete falsehood. I think there's just a lot. Tom is very well read. He's and a lot of people with the John Birch Society are, and we all want what's best for this country and to uphold the Constitution. I think we think that in this time when they're trying to dismantle the Electoral College, we saw the Kavanaugh hearings, I can't see that this would even be remotely a good idea to go into a convention to amend the Constitution only for a balanced budget, especially when we have so much debt. And if we immediately balance the budget without ending all of our socialist programs, we would all be at about a 75 or 80% tax rate, and everybody would need socialism. So I just think that there's some big holes in the argument to have a convention of states, and I don't think that we are in the political climate that it would even be effective. And we're also at a really huge risk, to, like Russian roulette with our rights, to lose our First and our Second Amendment. They could possibly not even send delegates from the individual states. Congress could elect themselves to make whatever decisions they want. And I just feel like it's a really bad idea.
All right, Holly, thank you for the call. You're welcome, Kevin. Tom Munns, before we get to more phone calls.
Well, I wondered if I could take this down a little bit. I need to try to make this as simple as I can for people that maybe not study the Constitution. Maybe it's been a while for people that study the Constitution. The whole premise behind the creation of the Constitution was to be able to separate or to create jurisdictions that and to prevent, specifically to prevent the usurpation of power by the creation of this federal beast, and that the states actually retained the rest of the powers, which is articulated in the 9th and 10th Amendment. To be able to take a position of federal supremacy and deny the power inherent in the states is absolutely un-American. It's unconstitutional or non-constitutional, however you want to say it. This is where it gets a little bit dicey. Understanding that the states have the rights to be able to do the things that they have not specifically delegated to in the federal Constitution. What the Convention of the States is saying is that, that the states have the right to be able to apply for an Article 5 convention, and that somehow the JBS does not support the Article 5 convention, or Article 5. The truth of that is we actually do support Article 5. We just don't support the idea of a convention because of so many things that can go wrong. The states do have the ability and the lawful authority to be able to make that application. We're not denying that. What we're talking about is some of the underlying issues that really go along with that. Mark Meckler says we want to take back power. Yes, we do. I believe that it's not less about what we're doing, or it is more about what we're not doing. It is about the decisions that people make. But we have an uninformed electorate that doesn't even understand what form of government we have. We do have power in D.C. They are out of control. But the idea that he's going to sit there and say that it's disrespectful to our state. Our state overwhelmingly opposed the Convention of the States, and Mark Meckler got on the radio this morning, and he condemned not only our state legislators, but he condemned every single Idahoan that is either on the fence or that opposes somebody that comes in from out of state without even understanding what kind of interest that he actually is bringing. I have been tried and true 15 years in the state, working for liberty in this state, and yet somehow we want to believe because he's an attorney from New York or Texas.
A lot of people didn't listen to that last hour, so let's just focus on you.
Okay.
Tom Munns. Let's go back to the phones. Tara in Nampa with Tom Munns, Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Tara, thank you for your patience.
Thanks, Kevin. My name's actually Tara.
Tara, my bad.
Little filing there. I wanted to address what Mark Meckler said. First of all, last November, when he was here on the 16th, I was actually at the library, and he was not expecting what he got. It was his own little get-together. Representative Moon was there, Representative Nichols was there, and a host of other liberty-loving people were there. And they literally put Mark Meckler back in his place. He is misguided on this. He's not George Soros funded, but he's definitely funded by somebody else. He's registered with the Secretary of State here in Idaho as a lobbyist. It mystifies me how much airtime that he gets here in this state when he is correct. Idaho is not going to do this. And yes, he is also correct that the John Birch Society has batted him down every time, and we will continue to do so. We love this country. We love this state. This state is one of the last bastions in the last bastions of freedom. So we're going to hold on to it real tight and real dearly to us in this state. And so I didn't appreciate him aligning and calling us conspiracy theorists and just trying. He was the one that was leftist vernacular. And if there's people in the legislature, the wild leftists, as he was saying, and they are agreeing and they're showing the bullet points of the John Birch Society, then so be it. They're having a moment of lucidity and understanding the gravity of the situation. We cannot have a convention of states. We can bat them back with our own power of the 10th Amendment. Let's just tell them no, 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 no. Anytime the federal government brings us something to this state, we just back them right back on out. We will have to redo some bookkeeping in our state, but we can do it. We don't need to keep taking federal funds. There's always a string. Well, actually, it's a hanging rope attached to it. So we just need to reconfigure within our own self, and
Sure.
we can do this.
Tom?
Well, does this sound like a lady that is uninformed? I mean, really, Idaho, come on. I mean, if we had more people like her, I mean, and the other thing I'd like to be able to mention, Tara, and thank you for calling this morning, is the importance for stepping up and supporting our legislators. A lot of people, have all kinds of comments to make, but here's the thing. I mean, I get asked all the time, well, Tom, does that sheriff have the guts to stand up for the Constitution? It's like my question to them is, do you have the guts to be able to defend a sheriff that's going to be able to take that kind of a stand? And so, as I say that, I apply that to the people's understanding of the legislature. If we do not stand up and support our legislators for the decisions that they make, why would they even bother to make them? And this is the thing about representation that Christy Zitto was talking about, Priscilla Giddings was talking about this morning. They want to be able to many of these people want to do the right thing. I believe that many of our legislators want to do the right thing. The problem is that they spend more time with lobbyists than they do with fellow Idahoans that are even informed enough to be able to talk about an issue. And I'm not calling anybody stupid here. I'm just saying that there's many of us that spend every waking moment reading and trying to understand what's going on, looking for solutions and how to fix the problem that we have. I mean, to be able to consider that, here's the thing I wanted to be able to address. One of them is that, he says that we're aligning ourselves with the left. Here's the thing that most people can really understand.
That's right. Your talking points are used by the leftists, Tom.
Well, and here's the thing. Yeah, because we're like that,
Lefty
right?
Tom.
Yeah, Lefty Tom. It's like Libby Steve. So politics, for anybody that's spent any time in politics, understands that they make strange bedfellows. Okay, I can't articulate some specific examples at the moment, but there is a possibility for be able to take two sides or two different parties that actually oppose a bill for different reasons. And to be able to generalize is inaccurate, and it's disingenuous to be able to say that somebody aligns with the left when you actually take the same position on the issue, but just for a different reason. That the left doesn't want the convention of the states because they don't want to be able to have they don't want to fear the budget being reined in,
remember,
and we want to be able to do it so that we can maintain our republic.
Mark Meckler was the founder of the Tea Party.
He was, and I'm not going to discredit anything about him that I don't know. The only thing I'm going to be able to do, unfortunately, is take a defensive position and to be able to share some of what he hasn't said. When he called us conspiracy theorists, and I'd love to be able to give a few examples of that.
Of you being a conspiracy theorist?
Yes, sir.
All right, Tara, thank you for the call. Was it Tara or Tara?
Tara.
Tara, my apologies.
She's very specific about that.
She's right to do that. Tom Munz is with us, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. More of your calls talking about the future of Idaho, the Liberty Movement, the John Birch Society, the Convention of States, and other news of note, and the Idaho legislature. We'd love for you to join the conversation now here on KIDO Talk Radio. All right, Kevin Miller with our great friend Tom Munz, TomMunz.com. Let's go back to the phones. I know you're fired up, but we got a lot of people that want to speak to you. Bonnie in Boise talking about the Convention of States with Tom Munz, Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Hey, Bonnie.
Hi, Kevin. This is an interesting conversation. I just wanted to point out a couple things. Tom says that he is not aligned with the left, and I don't think in his mind that he really is. But my representatives who are questioned about this, and that's Melissa Wintrow, Matt Epperldine, Sherry Buckner-Webb. Or Webb Buckner. I never remember which one it is. Anyway, they are very left. And as you know, Wintrow was really big and the Medicaid expansion. So I just wanted to point out they really agree with you tremendously. So when you say you're not aligned with them, I'm sorry, I think you are right in line with them. And we are losing our liberties every single day. I don't see where you've stopped a single one so far. What have you stopped? You don't run for office. You just go around pontificating and using words of the left. Condemn. Meckler didn't condemn anything, really. He didn't condemn you. He just said it was always interesting and fun to debate you, and meet you meet the John Birch Society members in the and are they in the legislature? Well, I assume they are because they sure sound like a lot of JBSers in the legislature. So, and then there was another one about how Congress is going to make themselves the delegates to the convention, and it specifically states that they have to come from the state legislature. the members of your state legislature. Okay? Then you have words coming out like conspiracy. Oh, I love that one. That's so lefty. I'm sorry. Conspiracy. Yes, there's always a conspiracy. And then back them down. You need to change your language because as far as I can see, you're not going anywhere with this kind of stuff. I do believe it might be a one way to get back to our Constitution, which of course you don't even agree with, right, Tom? Is that correct? Because you believe in the Confederation of States. Wasn't that our original document that the JBS Society believes in?
That's absolutely, and we actually believed in the Articles of Confederation, if that's what you're referring to. But we do,
right? And you feel that was the original document, and it should have stood in.
Look, Bonnie,
and the way that the Constitution came about, that
I'd love to. I know that there's a lot of concerns you have, and I'd like to be able to address some of those if I could. But
go ahead.
So, you clearly really probably don't know too much about me. You probably don't frequent this radio station very much, but I've been on this.
Tom, now see, that's what you're.
Just hang on a second. Would you let me finish,
that
please?
Are incorrect because I do listen to the every morning.
All right.
Maybe not the full 4 hours.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
So quit making your observations. I love Kevin Miller. I think he does great things. Yes, for our schools. I think for our social programs such as the rescue mission, Boise Rescue Mission. So I am an advocate of 580.
Well, that's great. And then then I'll give you that. But here's what I meant to say in including that is this: is that I have run for office. I've run for office twice. As a matter of fact, I run 5,000 miles a month on my truck, and I talk to legislators, I talk to law enforcement, I talk to every police chief and sheriff in the state. I talk to legislators with whom I have very good relationships with. I talk to commissioners, I talk to mayors, I talk to the attorney general, I talk to the governor, and they all know me. I've been doing this a long time. I've been as active as anybody can. I've even hung banners over the overpass, giving live traffic updates to KIDO, several years ago. So the idea that I don't do anything is a bit inaccurate. I'm a bit offended the fact that you say that, but you are entitled to your opinion. And I could address every other issue that you had, like maybe some of the things that were called. And I understand that you're upset, and you can be. But here's the thing. I would encourage you to go to jbs.org and to be able to look at our position, look at our website, look at our history. In 60 years, we have never been on the wrong side of an issue. And I'm confident in saying that. And most of the Birchers, all of the Birchers that I know, I can't speak for those before me, are very articulate. They're very close to me. They're very informed. They're very passionate. They're consistent in their arguments, which is more than I can say for most people. And so people can think that I am what I am, and you are entitled to your opinion. The problem is that making disingenuous statements like that without even meeting me and understanding who I am is really, and I'll say it again,
Tom.
Disingenuous.
No, it's not, because I listened to the people calling in who are supporting you, and I heard what the words they used, and I'm just very concerned that I don't approve of it. I don't like hearing that on the right, conspiracy and everything.
Well,
we have enough of it coming from the left.
I'm gonna go.
Thank you, Tom. I really appreciate it.
Thank you,
I really
Bonnie. I appreciate
do. And
that.
Kevin, I was obnoxious, so you can shoot me down.
Bonnie, we appreciate you, and we'll agree to disagree. Thank you, Bonnie.
So,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Kevin, if I could, I'd like to go into what she said. It's very, very important. And I will.
Now, can we go to traffic and weather before that?
Absolutely has to wait. No, I'm just,
Okay.
okay, we're hitting conspiracy next.
No, that's right.
I'm just Channel 7's Eric Gebert.
I'm Kevin Miller. Let's go back to the phones. It's okay, Tom. You'll like this person. Joining us now from Utah, it's Liberty Linda on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin, and good morning, Tom.
You remember Tom?
Good morning, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. I say don't mess with our Constitution. Use common sense. It's the one thing that holds this country together. Everyone around the world talks about our Constitution as the greatest document ever written. If we open up this Convention of States, we'll wake up and find our Constitution as a bunch of crumbs on the floor. That's all that will be left of it. And as far as the John Birch Society goes, it's the greatest society that I believe that wants to save this country, loves this country, and the people that belong to the John Birch Society are some of the greatest people I've ever known. So that's what I have to say.
What do you say to Tom? He's kind of like your protege.
Yeah. Tom's been my buddy for many years. I've always looked up to him. We've worked together, gone to many, many meetings. I respect him so much. Tom Munns knows what he's talking about. He's researched. He knows everything that's going on in our country. He's not one of these people who just speaks out and doesn't have the information that he needs. I rely on Tom. I know he's doing a good job, and he's speaking up for this country that he loves. And
Tom?
so thank you very much, Kevin, for having Tom on.
Well,
today.
I know you're always talking about Tom. Tom, what do you want to say to Liberty Linda?
Thanks, Linda. I appreciate it. Hope all is well, and come visit when let's
you can.
get together when you can.
We are, and I will be there hopefully soon, and with my soon-to-be husband.
You're getting married.
We plan on coming up to see you, Kevin.
You're getting married?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Tell you all about it when we come to visit you.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks for
All
calling.
right. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Tom. Okay, thanks, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So,
Well,
can I
she's-
get into something if that's okay?
Well, in a minute.
Because I just was looking at the clock. I'm like, I got to get this out. Because if I don't, I'll just eat
We
myself.
will. We're going to go to the news. We're
All
going
right.
to hear from Morgan in Twin Falls.
Okay.
Then we're going to come to you.
Thank God. Thank
And
you.
you're listening to KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. You should have been more happy for her that she's getting married.
I am. I'm just a little nervous this morning.
Nothing to be nervous about.
Not because of Linda.
Let's find out what's happening. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, to Capitol Hill. And Jared Halpern joining us from Fox News Radio. Jared, good morning.
How are you?
I don't know. It comes down to the Senate versus the president on this national emergency. Your thoughts?
The House, yeah, the House voted to. The Senate won't have to vote now on the override because the House was 36 votes short of overriding the veto. So not unexpected. It was right at the margin they were at when they passed it the first time. There was one more Republican who voted for the override than had voted for the initial disapproval resolution, but that's because I believe that representative was missing the first vote, so he wasn't there, and so he changed the outcome a bit. But this wasn't unexpected. The House got to vote to try and override the president's veto. Obviously, it fell short, and that really is the end of it, at least legislatively. Obviously, there are some states suing to prevent the president's executive order as it comes to reallocating military construction funding for a wall that are running through its sort of legal process. But there's not much else at this point legislatively Congress can do to block this, and that's what this was, sort of a last attempt for Congress to try and block it. It takes a two-thirds majority to override a veto, and obviously we didn't think that the House was going to have those types of numbers. Certainly they weren't going to have those numbers in the Republican-controlled Senate.
Anything else we should be looking out for this week? If all's well that ends well with the national emergency, so the president wins.
Well, I think I think what's going to be interesting, not just this week, but moving forward too, is this health care issue. The president's Justice Department has issued an opinion in which they are asking an appeals court to essentially invalidate the entire Affordable Care Act. That is a change, by the way, of the position that this administration had. There was a ruling on a specific part of the Affordable Care Act, a challenge to that. A district court in Texas struck that down and then took the additional step of saying that there was no severability. In other words, if part of the law is unconstitutional, the whole law must be struck down. That is not a view that the Justice Department under the Trump administration has had. They gave notice to the court earlier this week that they agree with that ruling. That is a big deal. That means that if this law were to be totally invalidated, the Affordable Care Act would cease to exist. That would put an awful lot of pressure on Republicans to then try and figure out what to do about replacing it. As we know, that has been an unsuccessful endeavor the last several times that House and Senate Republicans have tried to do that. And it would certainly set up a key issue on the election. And, it's one that I think the Democrats in particular would like to have. They believe that a lot of their success in the 2018 midterms was over the failed repeal efforts of the Affordable Care Act. And so, I think you're going to see now both parties talk an awful lot about health care as they get closer and closer now to 2020.
Jared, we always appreciate you. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Back to the phones. Tom, are you ready to take some more calls?
Yeah.
You don't like the calls. You want to talk. You want Tom time.
Well, I really wanted to hit the conspiracy issue,
Well,
but I'm always about taking. I'm about whatever, man. If people have questions, I'm in.
Let's go to Morgan in Twin Falls, KIDO Talk Radio. Morgan, thanks for your patience.
Morning, guys. Thanks
Morning.
for what you both do for liberty. And Tom, when you're taking flack, you're over the target, buddy.
Thank you, man.
And that lady that called before Liberty Linda, I'd say was either batting for the Democrat side or she is completely uninformed or maybe new to the state. I challenge her to go to somewhere Tom is speaking and meet with him personally. And after that, if her heart hasn't changed after that, then I would say she's probably a retired school teacher from California.
Thanks,
So-
Morgan. I appreciate it.
Anyway, yeah, that guy this morning, Mark, I think he would have probably lost some fence riders this morning just with some of his closing statements and the arrogance in which he spoke personally. Convention of States is a horrible idea. The Constitution gives us everything we need, and if folks were able to do the amount of work that Tom does on a weekly basis, monthly basis, we wouldn't have a lot of problems here when it comes to our liberty and understanding the Constitution. Tom's helped me tremendously. It's been 30 years since school for me, but he's helped me understand a lot more about the Constitution and our rights than I ever learned in school. And I thank him for that, and we need to have his back out there on what he does and support him and the John Birch Society for trying to keep this country free. Just trying to keep Idaho free is getting to be a chore now. Just kind of consents things kind of changing to the other way, but I think we're kind of at a teetering point right now. But we got to get in there and vote, and we got to get these milquetoast Republicans out of there, and we've got to get some more 3% guys, hardcore liberty patriots in there. And hey, Tom, just keep on fighting, buddy. We got you out here. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Morgan.
Thanks for your call, Morgan.
We appreciate it. Let's go to Doug in Boise. For Tom Mines with Kevin Miller. Hey, Doug, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Kevin, I wanted to just say, I'm so appreciative of Tom. I'm a 32-year veteran peace officer, and I've had the pleasure of speaking with Tom many times and listening to him on the radio. And I know that it could feel like you're drinking from a fire hose when he's talking, but what you're feeling and seeing and hearing is his passion and love for this country. And as a peace officer, I really appreciate the effort and energy he puts in to communicating with sheriffs and chiefs about the importance of their oath of office and how that should be center in their policy making and how they run their offices.
Doug, I don't even know what to say, man. It's been one of the greatest joys I have.
I just want to say thank you to you. You're just amazing, and I think a lot of people get you wrong. And I like I said, I respect what you're doing. You have an important message, and I think sometimes, and I've done this myself in my life, my passion sometimes undermines my message because I'm so intense, and you can be that way too. But because I've had the pleasure of sitting down with you so many times, I know your heart, and I know that you're hungry for knowledge, and you have a lot of knowledge to share. And I want to just encourage you to keep it going. You're providing a very important role for the sheriffs and chiefs in this state.
Well, people should probably know then, since you called, since we seem kind of brotherly. When I met you, you were the first law enforcement officer I ever met, and when I realized your heart, and I realized what you knew, and I realized the generalities that constitutionalists generally have for, their disdain for law enforcement, and they look at them, they can't really see beyond the badge. At least I couldn't at first, and you were the one that really opened that door for me, and you're really the reason that I've gone and visited the sheriffs and the police chiefs to be able to really look at these people's heart and to be able to find out what they think and what they feel, and how we can sort of get through some of the political rhetoric and really focus on the issue. And so you're huge in that. I don't think I've ever told you that, so I guess on air is probably the best.
Well,
so thank you. Law enforcement should thank you. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you much. You keep it going.
You too. Thanks.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Doug. Thomas?
Okay, so I'd like to be able to address this conspiracy issue.
That you're a conspiracy person.
Oh, yeah, I am a conspiracy person.
Conspiracy Tom.
I actually admit it. There is a difference between conspiracy and conspiracy theory. If one Googles conspiracy theorist, they'll come up with an original source document created by the CIA to be able to sort of make it to where the people would not question conspiracies. In the meantime, I wanted to be able to mention a few of them, for some of them that, even including the Convention of the States people that believe that conspiracy doesn't exist. The Trump presidency and what they're trying to do to him, the Council on Foreign Relations, Federal Reserve, the United Nations, the deep state, the administrative deep state, voter fraud, refugees, environmentalism, investigations, media, CIA covert operations, false flags, and you could look up Operation Northwoods for that, which is a CIA conspiracy there. And here's the other thing I wanted to bring home. Even law enforcement and our judicial system, both at the federal level and the local level, recognize conspiracy. There's a document called Operation Vampire Killer. I know it sounds kind of crazy. I think those names are to be able to try to get people to think that people that mention them are crazy. But there's a law enforcement contingency that believes that in fighting the New World Order. How much more evidence do you need than that? And so what I wanted to be able to do is to say real quick, the Green Deal is Agenda 21. The USMCA trade agreement that Trump support is an abolition of national sovereignty. The federal, we have the...
Now you're sounding like a conspiracy.
Well, we've got the Federal Reserve that was created to hijack our economic system. We have the incremental federal supremacy over the states. We have opening the Constitution to eliminate sovereignty toward regionalism that's part of Common Core, Agenda 21, trade agreements, the collapse of our economic system, abolishing the Electoral College, opening the borders, creating chaos. The goal is an anti-God, one-world government, and I am unapologetic about this, under a supranational governing authority under the United Nations. And if anybody questions anything that I'm saying, I'd be happy to supply them with information on that fact to be able to connect all of those dots. But conspiracy is absolutely real. It needs to be exposed. I believe there was a book, Sun Tzu in The Art of War, probably said it best. And I don't remember a whole lot of the book, but one quote was really foundational to me. And that was that if we do not know our enemy and we do not know ourselves, we will be imperiled in every battle. Not only do we not know ourselves as Americans, thinking that we're in a democracy, not a constitutional republic, but we have no idea who the enemy is. The Republicans believe the Democrats are the problem. The Democrats believe the Republicans are the problem. We identify that there's something much, much deeper, but yet people are too afraid to be able to understand that exists, which is why they stay away from conspiracy theory. You know, when in reality we've got the Republicans that have been hijacked by the neoconservatives, which are self-avowed Trotskyite-style Marxists on the right. And then you've got democratic socialist communists on the left.
Now you are sounding like a conspiracy theorist.
But it's all based in truth. I mean,
well, you've lost me.
Irving Kristol actually wrote. He admitted this in his own book.
I'm just saying you need to speak down to me because you've lost me with all these highfalutin words.
Oh, sorry. Well, my point in saying that, and I was trying to keep it simple, but so much for that, is the fact that conspiracies do exist. I mean, all one has to do is look and realize what they actually are and realize the difference between conspiracy and conspiracy theory. I don't believe that there are aliens in the middle of the earth. I believe that is a conspiracy theory because it can't be proven. I am a conspiracy factist, however, and we can substantiate every conspiracy that we've ever exposed. So.
More with Tom Munns in a minute. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. And we are rolling around. If you miss any of the Tom Munns Hour, you can go to KIDOTalkRadio.com. Check out our YouTube of it. Bob in Meridian, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, guys. Say, Tom, I have to congratulate you for the work that you do. When I came back from Vietnam over 50 years ago, my mom was a member of the John Birch Society. and I'm ashamed to say that I didn't take her words seriously. And almost everything that she told me over 50 years ago has come to pass, and all because of undereducated and indoctrinated voters. The rest of it's going to be completed soon, and I'm just afraid that maybe we've waited too long to try to stem the tide.
It's never too late, Bob. It's never too late. There's been countless times through history where people have thought that everything was over, and although most of them can't come to mind, there's no reason. I mean, in the worst of times, to be able to. That's the worst of times is what motivates people, and where the most amazing things happen. So I would encourage you to stay in it. I'm in it. There's no way I'm walking away from this. I got my toe on the line, and I'll have my toe on the line until I'm either taken out or God removes me from this earth.
Well, thank you for your work, and I'll get in touch with you. Maybe I can help.
I'd love to have you. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, traffic and weather together. Let's get you to work.
SmartVestor Pro.
We go to Pro-Life. Pro-Life, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yeah, I almost always agree with Tom Munz, and I can't think of anything right now I disagree with him about. There is...
Is Tom Munz a wimp?
No, he's not a wimp.
Everybody else is a wimp, according to you.
Yep, well, Tom Munz isn't. Good for him.
Thank you.
Anyway, it's obvious if you go to the Communist Manifesto, Marx and Engels have 10 summary points in there. You can read those, and we've adopted about 80 or 90% of it. The only thing they have left to get is private property and ownership of businesses. So we are a communist. There's no conspiracy about that we're a socialist nation, and we're almost a total socialist nation. And so when the John Birch Society says that kind of stuff, they're obviously right. And so there's nothing to argue about. When he's talking about conspiracy, it isn't a conspiracy. It's just an open knowledge. So, and we're trying to fight back against it, and he's doing a good job. So, I don't know.
You don't know what to say.
I appreciate that, Pro-Life. Thank
okay,
you.
Well, I'll say this. I'm against Convention of States, but if they take only one item and they process that, if they take that abortion will be murder, legal personhood will begin at fertilization as soon as sperm meets egg, and take that, only that one item, and discuss that and vote on it and see if we can put that in the Constitution, that'd be the only way that I'd even talk about it.
You'd sell us all out for that one, wouldn't you?
Yep, I'd sell everything out for that. We got to stop the murder of the babies.
God bless.
Okay.
Thank you, Pro-Life. Thomas, anything else you'd like to say?
Well, since we're coming up at the end of the hour, I appreciate you, Kevin, for having me on. I appreciate the listeners. I appreciate the support. I know it's very difficult to be able to take a position on principle and stand on it. I wanted to finish with a quote, if I could. It's from the Federalist Farmer, number 412, from October 1787. It's written a little Old English, so it's a little difficult to understand, but please follow if you can.
Well, hold on. Let's go to Jason in Star quickly, and then Tom Munz is going to read something quickly. Good morning, Jason.
Hey, good morning. I agree with everything you guys are saying this morning. And I know there's a lot of Christian perspective on the show, and that's where I was coming from this morning as I was listening. I try not to, this is just an encouragement, to not get caught up in the chaos because we know how it ends. Because I sometimes am freaking out with my voting and with things I see, but I also realize God's in control. So I don't have to get as worried about a Nancy Pelosi or a Barack Obama because there's someone higher than them that is in charge, and we know how it ends.
That's a great point, Jason. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thomas, take us home.
If our countrymen are so soon changed, and the language of 1774 has become odious to them, it will be in vain to use the language of freedom, or attempt to rouse them to free inquiries. But I shall never believe this is the case with them, whatever present appearances may be, till I shall have a very strong evidence indeed of it. So I appreciate everybody, and thanks a lot.
You're done?
Yep.
It's okay, Tom. You did a great job.
Thanks. It was a little freaky, but I think I made it.
Well, we still have got about 30 seconds.
Well, if anybody wants to call in and ask a question, they can.
Well, we wanted to thank you for everything that you do. I know it's not easy, but it's good to hear so many people that are encouraging, right?
It is. Well, the last couple of days, sometimes most people don't realize when I'm not on the radio, it's because I'm trying to maintain my composure. Either I get really upset about something, or I don't really know how to be able to appeal to those. I guess I figured through activism I'd have a lot thicker skin than I do now, but it's a difficult road.
Thick skin's overrated.
Yeah, I think so too.
It is.
Yeah, if we can't show emotion anymore, then then we're no different than drones. So.
All right,
thanks,
Tom
everybody.
Munz. Tom Munz Twitter, Munz Tom Twitter, TomMunz.com. Ray Amaya, great job as always. Thank you, everyone. Glenn Beck is next. God bless, and keep the faith.